Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck because I care.
I'm never going to get over that fucking opening. Oh, how's everybody doing today? Guys, it's almost Christmas. I wore my ugly Christmas hat just for you guys. I have several hats, but this one, you know me, I love the trucker hats. I'm a backwards baseball cap kind of dude. I don't know why. Anyways, thank you so much. We are going to have a lot of fun today, and we're going to learn. And that's something I wanted to bring up before I even bring out my absolutely amazing guest, is to explain why I'm doing this show and what this show is really supposed to be all about. Hey, what's up, Mike? Time for some mic drops. I can feel it. This show is all about having a good time, but more importantly, teaching and learning. And so every time I bring on these guests, I want to learn as much from them as I possibly can. And, hopefully we can kind of teach each other and teach you guys too. So please bring on the questions. Feel free to ask. If you guys want to steer the conversation in a certain way, ask, mention it. Say, hey, we want to talk more about this, talk more about that. Cool, go ahead. I have no issue with that whatsoever. So anyways, moving on to my guest. I absolutely adore this dude. He is such a fun guy, and he is honestly one of the hardest working, best-selling motherfuckers I have ever met. The one, the only. I can see him getting all excited and pumped in the backstage. Onrie Kompan!
I was actually just rubbing some lotion on my hands. It's really dry. The air is really dry in Chicago, so it's really.
You were like, yeah.
That intro, man, is solid.
Right?
When you started talking about the Canadian bacon, I was like, oh my God, and it was done so well. Like, you should see my intro. My intro sucks. Right? Done on iMovie, dude. Straight up. It's all the...
That's Eric Cockrell. He and I have been working together for like well over a year now, for years now. And he said, man, you need an opening. Like, you can't just jump in dry.
Absolutely.
And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. He's like, look, this is what he does for a living. He's like, let me do it. And he went through my my Facebook page or my YouTube page, and he found this one thing where it was a video of me basically saying, hey, this is why I swear so much. And so he mixed that with me doing a live about a day or two beforehand, talking about what the show was going to be about. And someone ended up asking me about Canadian bacon. I got into that, and he was like, yeah, let's just have some fun. Let's just make this a Chuck intro. So, yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing, Chuck. I feel like I'm watching Full House again. It's amazing.
I'm so glad you like it. So we're not having a lot of people chatting yet, but we definitely have the Bangstons. They're out here.
I love them. Honestly, right? I don't know what I would do without either one of them.
You would sell a lot less comics.
I would absolutely. But it's not just about that. It's I've gotten to know both Mike and Trish very well over the last month, and they're just salt of the earth people, and they're always there. And it doesn't matter. I've had great shows. I've had shows where I've barely sold anything, and no matter what happens, Mike's that guy who's in your corner.
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%.
No matter what,
Yeah. No, such a good dude, and he could teach a lot of us about support because it's
Absolutely.
funny. Well, him and Trish obviously, but they came out. It was 2 days before Belial 2 dropped. That's when I met them. I met them on a show, and ever since then, they've just done a deep dive into everything I've done, and then they start meeting up with people I interview and all that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like there's now this little Chuck bump where anytime I interview someone, at least the Bangstons are going to go and hang out and check them out. So,
and I could talk about Mike, but I also got to mention Trish too, because Trish goes that extra mile. And once these two guys are onto you, it's just you and Trish has told it to me. She said, Onrie, I look at you like my comic book friend, and that means a lot, and Chuck, you have that personality. I remember we met, when was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago at Alamo City.
Yep, 2018. That's right. That was my first show, by the way.
And that was my last show for that year. And it was that was a stressful show for me because it was like the one where Arnold Schwarzenegger was in there, and like we were in like a dome. It was like straight up like that whole show for me felt like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, like when he was stuck inside the arena, and the 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
I don't know if you've heard much about that, but they're still trying to pay off that show.
No way.
Yeah. There hasn't been an Alamo City Comic Con since then. They did some like markets and stuff in San Antonio, but they've been just basically trying to pay off the previous one, from what I've heard.
Probably because getting Arnold to come to the show, because he doesn't do conventions.
Dude, I literally, I lost money because people would walk by and they're like, I don't have any money. And then I'd see the $600 Arnold lanyard around their neck. And I'm like, no wonder you don't have any fucking money.
Yeah, they're all broke. Oh, and I was ending a Kickstarter that weekend. So I don't know why. I think it took 2020 to make me realize that like what happens online doesn't necessarily translate to real world. And so I was going to the show, and I'm like, all right, I'm finishing off my campaign. I was really happy with the results, by the way, but there was a real big, severe disconnect between what was happening on the convention floor and what was happening on the Kickstarter. And I had this kind of like spiritual thinking, I guess, that if I just did well at this convention, everything else would work out just fine in the end, even though the two had no correlation. And mentally, I was dealing with the same things that we deal with at every show. Like there are moments when people are buying, and then you get moments where people ain't buying nothing. And it's just you got to keep going at it and just hammering through, and that's really what it is. And that's, I think, what Kickstarter is all about. But one thing I got to commend you for, and since you're saying that this is your show, we learn from each other here. I gotta say, man, the way you managed your second, your Kickstarter for Belial #2, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And it honestly played a major role in me finally deciding. That was the moment where after 7 months, we didn't see conventions anymore, and I was done feeling sorry for myself. I woke up one morning, I watched you ring out the rest of your campaign. I'm like, I want to sell again. I want to do this again. I want to get back out there. I want to start moving Yisun Shin like I did before. And I haven't gotten to that point yet. It's going to be a while before I can do that virtually. But how you doing, Kyron? Hola.
What's up, brother? That's wow. I mean, thank you so much. Because honestly, I look to you as the guy on the convention floor. You're the guy I want to be. Like, you are moving books. You are tunnel vision, sell. I respect the shit out of it. So to have you say, well, online, I'd like to do what you do. I'm like, well, that's great because you and I have to talk.
Oh, absolutely. Like, Chuck, honestly, I just seeing your career progression this year has been absolutely phenomenal. Like I honestly felt like I had a lot to learn. I had to learn how to walk in when you got cement blocks, you don't stop walking. You learn how to walk in cement blocks.
Yeah.
And then you learn how to run in cement blocks, and that's really what it is. And when more stress comes on, you got to make a decision at some point. And this is what I think is so amazing was you were the second guest on my show.
Yeah.
And we talked about that backstage. But the one thing I wanted to say is like I asked you to come on specifically because I knew you'd be somebody that I'd want to talk to, and I knew just when I started this that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I needed someone to kind of like help me figure stuff out. And I knew that if I talked to you, you would just be, you wouldn't allow the conversation to fall off the rails. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I started watching after you were on the show. I'm like, there's Chuck again. There's Chuck. Wow, Chuck. Chuck, he's everywhere. Chuck, everywhere.
I was getting that a lot. And it's funny. I spoke to Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc., who's such a cool dude. And I just said,
Awesome
I
dude.
said, yeah, such a great dude. And he will just straight out bluntly tell you how the fuck it is. And I'm going to have him on the show at some point. I love the dude. But I talked to him and I said, look, man, like they seem like they're annoyed that they're seeing so much of me. And he's like, so what? Nike doesn't give a shit how much you see that swoop. They'll keep going. He said, do not stop, man. You're doing it. Just keep pushing. And I was like, okay, cool. Because if they don't want to watch, they just won't.
But look at what's going on with your career now. Like, look how far you've come, you know. And it's really, and I say this all the time when I'm selling comics now, because I've made it an emphasis to try and have creator-owned stuff at all times on every show. And how many books I can pull up is really about as many as I can stock. So you know, the thing for me is I feel like every comic is sold based on how people feel about the creative team, the actual story, and you know, the price point of the actual book itself. But when people see that the creator themselves is a good dude and he's easy to engage and he's not a jerk, and you know, he's got this kind of fun story and he's got a crazy opening to his show on YouTube about Canadian bacon, you know, that's what gets people to want to invest in the book itself, you know. And that's how I sell creator-owned stuff, you know, is by getting to know you guys and reading your work and you know, having you on my shows.
Sorry, I'm now finally and I was listening. Thank you. Well, I mean, dude, that's such a huge compliment. I really do appreciate it. And now, while you were chatting away, I also got to get us on Facebook. So now I get to show off all the
okay, awesome.
Facebook.
I should probably share this too, Chuck. But we got Danny Morales in here. I saw the interview that you guys did last week, and I totally, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come off as that guy who would be like just bombarding, like, read my book, please. Oh my God, please. You know, like, I'll throw it in your face. Just buy.
You know what? It wasn't that it was you. It's that there was several people who were like, my book, and I'm like, whoa, guys, this is a sausage party. Like, stop throwing dicks at him. Yeah, see, even Danny says no sausage necessary.
No sausage necessary. I tried to come up with my best sausage jokes, but I didn't want to get out of hand. You know, I always try and keep it at a PG-13 level.
Right? Well, I mean, not here. You don't need to worry about that.
That's excellent. Thank you. Thank fucking God.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and okay, so let's go first to what you do. Because you, like myself, are not a singular person. You're not someone who, and I find this an awful lot, people kind of find their niches and they do what they do and that's it. And I think, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I think you and I are people who are not happy being pinned down. We need to be busy. We need to be doing a bunch of stuff. And the last thing we want to do is be bored. So you, like, you can see it on your shows. Like when you are, I've mostly seen you on the showroom floor. And when I see you on the showroom floor, you're selling, you're there, you're, I would say almost Carnival Barker-esque. And you make it a spectacle. It's fun. And I'm sure that there's people out there who, even if they weren't interested in the book, they're interested in this spectacle and they have to come and be like, what is going on here? Like, what, you know? So kind of talk to that. Like what all do you do in the comic world right now?
Well, it's interesting because for the last decade, I've been solely a creator and publisher. And what my job is, by the way, guys, my comic is about a Korean admiral that I actually have a ton of copies here. Let me pull it up real quick. But,
do it.
You know, I've been working in comics for the last decade now, and I self-published my own comic series about a Korean admiral named Lee Sun-shin. And this is the cover of the first book, and it's got a foreword by Stan Lee. So I got
so cool.
This copy is actually signed by Stan Lee.
Okay, so let's go into that real quick. How the fuck do you get Stan Lee to write your forward? How do you even do that?
Fucking sick. You want to hear the answer?
Yeah.
I asked him, and he said yes, straight up. And what happened was, it didn't just happen. It wasn't coincidental. This was like months of planning. So I always wanted to meet Stan Lee. And I started working with David Anthony Kraft, who's my co-writer on Yisun Shin. We've been working on the series together. He's taught me everything I know about comics production, like when it comes to writing, drawing layouts, balloon placement, editorial, everything. All my training comes from Dak, who has had over 30 years of experience working in the comics field. He worked at Marvel, he worked at DC. He started his own publishing line. So this was a guy who taught me everything. And because we built something that I really believed in with Yisun Shin, it was like one of those situations where I put everything into this book, and I was fortunate enough to get in the right place, be at the right place in the right time. So I told Dak, we need someone to write the forward, and it needs to be Stan Lee. It can't be anybody else. It has to be Stan Lee. And he was like, well, there's much more contemporary writers out there. Like, you're in Chicago. Why don't you reach out to like Brian Azzarello or like somebody else? And I was like, no, Stan Lee. And this was before Stan really got big because of the Marvel thing, So Dak was like, well, it's just an old guy. And I'm like, no, that's Stan Lee. That's the guy who got me into comics, And Dak, he's a huge admirer of Stan. And Stan taught him everything he knows about, marketing and just getting out there and having that chutzpah, that's what us, but that was the thing about it, was Stan had this, he was the embodiment of good character, despite the fact that, yes, he's a huckster. He's trying to make it in the world just like any one of us, but he was the guy who gave credit to other creators. And, at some points in his career, he was being touted as the guy who was trying to take everything away from everybody. Well, who gave Jack the name King Kirby? Who gave Jack Kirby credit at all? No one was doing that in comics until Stan actually started doing that. So for me, it was like, if I'm going to put out a book that I really believe in, that has an obscure title that everybody's going to pass over this book, right? Yisun Shin. What's a Yisun Shin? You have to actually pick up the book and read it. And the book's about a Korean admiral that fought the Japanese in the 1500s. He was outnumbered 10-1, and he beat them 23 times in a row without losing. Just like 300, Last Samurai, put them together, and it's Game of Thrones all in there. And it's not, it looks dense. It looks like a boring read. I'm telling you, just pick up the book, read it. You will fly through this thing like there is nothing. Like, it'll take you less than an hour to read the book.
This is him, by the way, on the floor. This is exactly what you said.
That's not me on the floor. On the floor, I would have had you at 30 seconds. I would have shut up. I would have stopped talking. This is
right, and you would have. They'd already be holding the book and reading.
You could. We'll buy 5. Oh, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Sold.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll sign those for you too. I sent you a message on Facebook, by the way, and I'd like to talk to you too, because I know you're a dealer, and I heard your interview with Chuck last week, and it was fantastic. So and that kind of brings me to where I am now. I guess I'll get to that in a moment, but to finish up on what we were saying with Stan was so I contacted Jim Salicrup, who actually introduced Dak and I to each other. And for those of you who don't know, Jim Salicrup, longtime Spider-Man editor. He's the guy who basically brought Todd McFarlane on to Spider-Man, helped create Venom. He's actually a creator of Venom. And I got to see Venom with Jim Salicrup, which was kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
Opening night. Yeah, it was awesome. And Jim had a direct line to Stan. And I ended up winning this charity contest thing, and I got to meet Stan Lee. So everything was now in place. I had my 15 minutes with Stan, and I had a contact to reach out to him and say, hey, Stan, this is my buddy Onrie, take care of him. And what Dak and I did was we got the first 3 issues of Beast and Shin done. We had to present this to Stan so that he would actually be able to write something about the book. So I showed up with I got tickets. My wife and I, we went to LA for a couple days, and we stayed in Beverly Hills, like maybe about a block away from Stan's studio, which was just stupid expensive. It was like the most expensive trip of my life, but I didn't care. I just wanted to hear. I knew I was going to have like 15 minutes alone with Stan Lee. Mm-hmm. And so I, of course, was nervous, and I didn't bring a camera. I wanted to get a picture of us together, and I didn't bring my camera. But I was mainly nervous because I had to ask him about, what if he would endorse my book. And that's a big thing. I've met a lot of creators, as I'm sure you have in these years, and not everybody's willing to offer their endorsements on things. Like, there are a lot of creators that I've met that have had a tremendous input into the comics world. Like, they don't necessarily, unless they feel truly connected to it, or unless they know the person or whatever, they typically don't just offer up endorsements.
Yeah.
So I was kind of it's one thing to be confident in yourself and say, I'm going to get this and I'm going to make it happen. But everything depends on whether or not the person actually agrees to do that. So I'm sitting down with Stan, and I'm nervous as shit, man. I'm fucking sweating.
Of course.
And I'm handing him my book and everything. And, this is back when he could still see. So as he got older, I think literally a year after, he had already started deteriorating in health. When I first met him, he was tall as a mountain. I kid you not. He was 6'2". When I met him the first time, he was taller than me. And then the next year, I saw him kind of crouched over, because I can imagine, these conventions wear him out. I was like, wow, there may be a day where Stan is not here with us anymore. And going back to the meeting, when he first saw my book, he flipped through everything, and he was just like, this is magnificent. I mean, he was just sitting there staring at everything. And then finally I coughed up the nerve to ask him, David Anthony Kraft worked on this, he used to work for you back at Marvel. And he was like, yeah, Dak, tell him I said hi. And, I always wanted to get out to his house up in Screamer Mountain and all this stuff. So, Stan and I are just BSing with each other. And I'm like, well, Stan, Dak and I are writing a book together, and we would really like to know if you would write the foreword to it. And Stan looked at me and he said, well, where's this going to appear? I said, in my book. This is meaning, where is it going to be published? And I was like, it's just in my book. And he goes, all right. Now, if I were you, I'd pull out a paper and pen. And I didn't have a fucking paper and pen. I didn't have shit. I was just sweating. I was sweaty. I didn't have a smartphone back then, because there was no smartphones back then. I still had the fucking BlackBerry thing, and it wasn't working. And I was just everything was all over the place. So finally I collected myself, and I brought a Sharpie with me because I asked him to sign something for me.
Yeah.
And I just wrote on the folder, and he gave me his email. And then he was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll have something for you at the end of the day. And I'm like, cool. Awesome. He kept the books, he read them and everything. And then that was it. And when I left the office, when I left his office, I was like, there's no way that just happened. There's no way, no way it happened. He would never do this for me.
Well, and even if he did, was he just talking? You know what I mean? That's got to be going through your head, where you're just like, he was being nice to me. I'm never going to get this forward. He's never going to actually send it to me.
Absolutely. So I go back to my hotel. My wife was waiting for me. We went out by the pool. It was way too cold. It was 60 degrees to go to the pool. I know you Canadians don't understand that, but
no, we don't.
Us wussy Chicagoans in our feeble.
You guys get just as cold. You guys get it rough.
Yeah, but 60 degrees is not swimming weather. I don't care where you're from. I can't swim in 60-degree weather when the water's cold. I can't get used to that.
Oh, okay, I feel you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't.
No.
If you can, I respect you, because that's you're way up north. I'm just too much. I'm just a sissy when it comes to that. But anyway.
I told my wife, I said, when we move to Texas, I will go swimming on Christmas Day, and I've done it many times already, and I might just do it again this year. Screw it.
You got hairs on your chest that I don't. I just I can't do it.
They're gray now because of that. But yeah.
They say it's really healthy for you. Like Kyokushin karate guys, like they go out and they run like miles out in like in the mountains and stuff in the morning, and they do it with their shirts off, and then they train in the water, and it's like freezing cold, but apparently it's like really good for your body and your heart or something. But anyway, it was really miserable. I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. Is this ever going to happen? And sure enough, I come back to the hotel room and I get an email from Stan Lee, and he was like, "Onrie, it was really nice meeting you. Let me know what you think of the Ford. If it works for you, I'm going to send you 2 copies and I'll sign them for you." And I was like, "Cool." And I approved everything. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, this shows up at my front door. You see, that's an original Stan Lee signature right here.
Holy shit, he mailed it to you.
He mailed it to me. I still got the envelope. I don't know where it is at the moment, but like I have the envelope from POW Entertainment.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
And here's the thing, Chuck. The reason why I took the time to tell you this is because that's what I think comics is about. I think that's the experience that we have to provide for everybody. You know, that's the main lesson I took from Stan. And, the best creators out there understand this too, that this is what we do. It's a performance. It's a show. And Stan, everybody puts on the performance, but then when the curtains close, that's when you get to really discover who that person is. Mm-hmm. Stan was the same guy in front of everybody that he was behind the curtains, but he was also Stan, meaning he was a human and he was fallible, and we all are. And that's the thing. And one thing I wanted to say is, bringing this back to you now. I saw a post from you this weekend. I was actually talking with Mike and Trish about it yesterday, about one of the adventures you had, searching for your daughter. Yeah. And I read that post, and I read all the little tweets that you posted as a result of that. And I was just like, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen a father do, because it couldn't be easy. But the fact that you used your skills as a writer to make it, work, like to get through not just your family, but yourself through this. It's really, I admire that, man.
Thank you. It's so funny because we talk about, we use words like bravery and courageous and all that. But for me, it was like the only way I was going to be able to survive that. You know what I mean? Like on that trip, and honestly, Wendy and I actually had a really good trip. Like we really had, because we tried to make the best of it, because we knew that this was the closest to a vacation we were going to get, as fucking pathetic as that was. A drive to Minnesota to pick up our runaway kid was the closest that we were going to get to any kind of vacation. And so for us, there was no other way around it. And so I had decided, I think the night before, like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to live tweet it, because there was so many people kind of rooting for us and excited for, or not excited, but worried. So I just thought, okay, let's just make this a fun little adventure thing and see what it does. And I think that was also my way of constantly forcing myself to be more positive. And I think like naturally I do veer towards being a more positive guy, but it's all too easy for any of us. And like being in the time that we're in right now, it's too easy for you to get negative. It's too easy for things to go to shit. And so I just felt like if there was some way that I could kind of, focus myself on trying to make the best of this entirely shitty situation, I had to do it. So that was kind of our fun way of doing it. And we got to do stupid things. Like I said to my wife all along, like, we got to hit White Castle. I've never been to White Castle. Got to do White Castle. And I remember when we were driving down, my mother-in-law was like, White Castle sucks. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't care if it's the most terrible burger ever. It's not about that. I just want to do White Castle once, say I did it. I'm a fat ass. Like, I just want to be able to have done all of them. You know what I mean?
How was your experience?
And I liked it. It was good.
I like it too. Now, How long did it take before you had to go to the bathroom?
It was like immediately upon getting to the we ate them, and I think we just got like the 4-pack or whatever and demolished. So I was like, oh, 4 burgers. Okay, we just demolished them. I was like, oh shit, we should have gotten like 12. Like that was nothing.
Yeah, that was nothing. You got to get those crave cases.
Right?
That takes me back to my college days. And you know what? It's like you think that they don't cost much, right? You're like, what's 4 burgers? It takes 2 seconds to eat those burgers.
Dude,
And you get like 30 of them. You walk out with like a fucking briefcase full of burgers, and you just spent $32. And it's and you don't have any guilt. You're like, this is White Castle. I don't care.
That's part of the experience.
What's that?
That's part of the experience.
And you know what? Everything you just said is also part of the experience, because I think that's what our job is. Our job is to take our audience away from whatever it is that is keeping them up at night and whatever it is, and try and make their lives a little bit better, just like kind of like how Stan did for me. But I also want to confirm something, being a very positive person. I noticed on the comments that someone called me a pussy, and yes, I am a very big pussy when it comes to and it's totally cool. You can get away with calling me a pussy. I can take it.
Right?
I can take it all day.
Bring it.
If it makes me laugh, I'm all cool. You can call me a pussy. It's all good.
Yeah. If you're gonna get called a pussy, swimming in or not being willing to go swimming in 60-degree weather is actually I'd be fine with.
It's better. I would rather be a pussy because pussies take the poundings.
They do.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's true. Balls, they can't take shit. You kick the balls are down. It's over.
They look a lot better than dicks, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I'm all about that. And I look very good, Chuck. I'm very confident in myself. So I'll take it all day.
Oh shit. So let's delve into Yi Sun Shin a little bit first. Well, not first. We're like fucking 30 minutes in.
No. It's cool.
But so this is a real world, like is this like historical fiction? Is that a fair way of calling it?
Dak always tells me, drop that H word, historical. He's like, just take it out. That's like, if you think about like everybody always would look at this and be like, it's Yi Shu Shi or Shu Shin Shi. Obi-Wan Kenobi is harder to pronounce than this. Yi Sun Shi is very simple, right? And it's understandable. I don't say this in a way that's like, oh, you nitwits. I get it. This is Korea in the 1500s. And I had no idea what I was doing when I first got into comics. But here's what I felt. This is what compelled me to put 10 years of my life into this book, and to get rejected by every publisher, to get kind of booted by distribution and have to turn to conventions and turn this book into a series that has sold over 100,000 copies and has 250,000 copies in print currently. So Yi Sun Shin actually existed, all right? And he fought the Japanese. Like, these were stormtroopers in Star Wars. They're all based off of samurais. And this is who he fought. He fought the samurai. They came to Korea and they wanted to take over the country. They didn't even plan on going to war with Korea. They planned on just marching through, just like how the Germans like marched through Poland and just take everything. Just be like, this is ours. Their real war was with China. They wanted to get into China. And once they took over China, they wanted to take over Russia and the entire world. Kid you not, this is actually what happened. Hideyoshi Toyotomi was a ruthless warlord, and he wanted to take over the entire planet. And he had the strongest military in Asia, the Japanese. They had been kicking each other's asses for 100 years because they had these civil wars. And that's how the samurai became such skilled warriors, is because they were beating the shit out of each other for 100 years. And the Koreans, they were a part of the Hermit Kingdom. So they didn't know war. They didn't really care for it. They had some problems up in the north, and they had no contact with Japan. They didn't care. They thought they're just a bunch of refugees who started their own country. Like, they don't pose any threat, because Japanese culture actually derives from the Korean culture. They're ancestral to each other, and they have a very poor relationship because of this conflict. And without taking sides, of course, as an outsider, I don't try and portray it as Japanese people are evil and all this stuff, because I got a lot of Japanese friends, and I love the samurai, and that's not the point, but when you're telling a story, you got to have compelling villains, and the samurai, they are compelling villains. I mean, they're scary, they're freakish looking, and they're coming at you. And that's really what was going on in Korea. And there was no one left to defend the people of their country except for Yi Sun-shin, who was like, you know what, I'm not bowing down to the Japanese. Just like what you and I were talking about before, Chuck, is, we don't just sit on the sidelines. We're actually trying to go out and do things. And that was Yi Sun-shin's motto. And he built a really small naval fleet. He put them through hell. He trained them. He, put in the time, and this small naval fleet was able to just completely decimate the Japanese Navy, and they single-handedly turned the tides of the war. And this all actually happened. And it's not a history lesson. We try and take this as far away from history as possible. Just treat it as you would Star Wars. It's just set in Korea. That's it. Everything happened. Everything that's true that happened happened, yes, but probably not the same way it does in our book. Now, there's no sci-fi elements in our book either, but are things exaggerated for effect? Yes, it's comics. I don't think you can just, boring comics really don't sell well, in my opinion. And
well, actually, a boring number one can, but you're never going to fucking sell the number two.
Yes, this is true. A boring number one can. That's actually a very solid point. And after a while, it was just kind of everything was always, the market would always dictate certain things, right? Of what kinds of things people want, what kinds of things people need. But really, it's not the market that dictates it. It's you who dictates it. You're the one who decides whether or not your book has a right to exist. You will it into existence. And it's really just a matter of how far you're willing to go with it. And, that's just kind of what really compelled me with Yi Sun-shin was he was a really good leader. He was a good man. He tried to protect his people. And all throughout history, I think the one thing that turns people off to history is the fact that every historical figure you hear about was either a martyr or, killed a bunch of people. And it was never that the guy, the underdog, actually came out ahead and won and saved everybody. And that to me is the very definition of a hero, and that's what compelled me to do Yi Sun-shin. And I've always been transfixed with Korean culture, and I've studied Taekwondo for a long time, and I've been to Korea multiple times, and it's a fascinating culture. I love it. I miss it. I want to go back out there.
Do you have a personal stake in the Korean culture? Are you Korean at all, or
no? Russian and Jewish. And my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my wife's from Kazakhstan, so she's Muslim. And,
okay.
So it's kind of weird, but I'll tell you. And as far as personal stakes, like I said, when I was growing up, I used to study Taekwondo, and I took it very seriously, and I went and trained in Korea for a little bit, and it was I loved it. I skipped my prom to go train for a state tournament, which I never fought in, but it's it was an experience, and it taught me a lot, and kind of shaped me into who I am now. So it's just a very disciplined culture, and to know that they had such a great figure, me being Jewish, me being Russian, we don't have a lot of heroes. There's Stalin. Stalin's not a fucking hero. Stalin, he's a dickhead. And then there's aside from that, there are a lot of great heroes like Peter the Great, who built St. Petersburg, but he built that on the backs of hundreds of thousands of people, died and worked in horrible conditions. And, it was a slave runner, Very rarely do you hear about, hey, this guy just decided that even though he was being attacked on all fronts that he was not going to stop. He was going to fight, and he was going to win because he had the strategy. He knew what was up, and that's what happens every time I step out onto a convention floor. Is I have that mentality of like, look, no one's here for me. No one gives a shit that I'm here. No one gives a fuck. No one will ever give a fuck that I'm at a convention unless I give them a reason to. And it's about that experience. It's about that time that we have together with our fans, and you get that very, very
well. Yeah. I'm 100% in there. And I think there's too much kind of cockiness. There's actually, I feel like there's there's the two polar opposites, and you and I kind of sit nicely in the middle. But either you're super cocky and you're like, my shit's gonna sell itself, I'm good, my stuff is good, or there's, I completely suck and I don't know what to do, and hopefully something happens. And you and I are like, no, I'm good, but no one fucking knows who I am. So I need to fucking get myself up there and show you what I've got cooking.
Absolutely. It doesn't work any other way. And
no.
I think you're doing it so well on the digital platform. And that has really got me into, because once COVID hit, that's when I got into a really dark place once COVID hit. From March, like I remember just finishing up C2E2, and I swear to God, Chuck, right before C2E2, I had COVID. I got it. I got tested for antibodies and I was negative, but I'm telling you, I had all the symptoms. I had the dry cough.
Yeah.
I had the flu. I was in bed. I was like, it sucked. And then, I recovered. Doctors told me I didn't have COVID or anything like that. You're just sick, whatever, because, they know everything, don't they? And, sure enough, I ended up being fine. And when I got out to C2E2, I was kind of still not there. And I was really worried about whether or not I could even do the show. But fortunately, I survived. I really hope I didn't get anybody sick. I had hand sanitizer and was just, not breathing on anybody or approaching anybody, letting people know I was sick. And this was right before everything with COVID hit. So no one was wearing masks. But that was my last show, and it was a very successful show. And I was like, all right. Well, the next weekend was supposed to be Emerald City, and I had 1,500 books ready to go. And I shipped them out, and then I talked to there was talk of the convention being canceled, and I talked to my rep with Emerald City, and I said, are you guys actually doing the show this year? And they said, yes. What's up, Sean? Good to see you.
I know, dude, we're getting some good people in here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm rambling on.
No. I'm just making sure that they all get their moment. But no, keep going, keep going.
Of course, it's about you guys. I'm so sorry. This is like therapy for me, Chuck. I get to come here.
No,
we haven't talked about Canadian bacon yet.
I know, right? We'll get around to it. I promise. But you were ECCC. You were talking to someone there.
Yeah. Okay, so they were like, yeah, the show's happening. Send your books. You'll be fine. The very next day, that's when they decided to cancel the show. So now I had 1,500 books stuck in Seattle. And I lost $500 right out the door for that show, which is not the end of the world. It's whatever. And I got it back, and then I was hoping that my next show was not going to get canceled. And then it got canceled. And then I was just like, all right. So for like the first month, I'm like, all right, this is not working out. I can't not be doing something to make money, meaning I have to get out there and sell and move something, because that was a driving force. Like I had to fight like for 10 years before I could actually like start making money for myself with Eastern Chin. It was my full-time grind for a very long time before I was finally able to find like some creative success with it. And, then it was just turned off because it's like, here, COVID's in place, didn't file for unemployment, didn't do any of that stuff. And I just didn't know what was going on. And I didn't know what to do. I just honestly didn't know what to do. And so for 7 months, I was just interviewing other creators. I'm like, what are these guys doing? And that eventually led me to Tom Hutchinson, who we were talking about earlier. And
who popped in, actually.
Oh, hey, what's up?
What's up, Tom? I'm not wearing the tie because it was hard enough getting me to wear it once. Like, I wore the tie. Like, I haven't worn pants in a year. So trying to get me to wear a tie even once a week, I did it the once. I did it for Steph. I kissed the ring, but that was about as far as I could go. But anyways, you were talking about Tom. Sorry.
Yeah, so Tom, yeah, I interviewed him. Eventually, our paths crossed, and I had been following Jen King from Space Cadets, watching what she was doing.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely amazing what she was doing with live sales, and I was like, wow, it's really cool what she's doing, but it didn't really like click to me. And it wasn't until I actually talked to Tom Hutchinson, who I knew was a creator, and I felt like, okay, here's a guy that actually understands what it's like to be on to wear all those hats, like what you're saying, to not only like produce the comics, but to actually get them out there. And I don't call what we do sales in the sense that like we're selling used cars. We're selling ourselves with our projects. And Tom is just a phenomenal guy, and he really guided me with kind of like understanding like how to balance, being creative and getting into the into the field of live sales. And it was really Jen King who gave me the opportunity to do it. And what really sparked that was I started a collectibles business before COVID with my very good friend Kevin Hines, and we just
is that Hunter Killer?
That's Hunter Killer, yeah.
Yeah.
We were in the collectibles game, and we were buying up lots and doing stuff and flipping them, and we started doing some shows, but the shows were just not the place for it. I mean, it's one thing for me to get Easton Chin and be like, hey, let me tell you about Easton Chin. It's another thing for me to like take out some random comic at a convention and put that in your face. Like, here's Super Pro, number one, like it's not something that you're going to like, it's going to get people to stop. But when you're doing it on a live sales platform, now people have your attention. Now you got to show them everything you got. So now people don't have a choice but to look. So now books like Super Pro are selling like crazy, and we've sold like a ton of sets of it, and it's hilarious. And it's a novel book. It's not like we're selling it for like thousands of dollars or anything. It's not one of those books, but there's a lot of stuff out there. There's so much content out there that there's something for everybody. And I truly believe this way about creator-owned comics and getting those books into people's hands. That is now my job. That is how Easton Chin has kind of like transitioned me to this point. And being in live sales is now a permanent thing for me. Like, even when cons come back, I will still be on that front. So, and that's where I meet you guys at conventions and get your stuff. And, like, that's a very important part of everything,
I just saw this from Martin. This is where I have an issue. I have no ego, so I have a hard time selling myself. I've read Martin's work. I edited some of his work. I like Martin's work. He said, it's my hope the work will sell itself. And I'm going to be honest with you, that is not likely. Like, it doesn't tend to work like that. And I'm not trying to put a hole in your sales or nothing like that, but it doesn't have to be necessarily about you selling yourself, but you have to find something in your work then that you can be a little egotistical about, something that you can push on that.
Chuck, okay. I want to get something. Keep talking, but I want to say to Martin, just keep talking.
Great. Yeah, so stick around, Martin. Yeah, you have to find something in what you're selling that you can maybe be a little egotistical and a little excited about and sell that then. And so that's why when we were talking about decisions, I was like, I was giving you selling points because I truly love that book and I loved what you were doing. And I knew that was going to be a hard book to sell, but it's something that if someone grabs it and reads it, and that's another thing, when you're on the sales floor, let people hold your shit, let them read it. Fuck COVID right now. If they can flip through, you're already partway into that sale. So,
and Martin, I got something I want to show you. And I know you, Martin. I've seen you on the convention floors before. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. So here's something I just want to say. All right, I've been a dealer now for the last 2 years of my life. I'm new to live sales, but I am learning. And Tom, special shout out to you again. You've been someone I know that I can come to if I need a straight answer and not someone to like sugarcoat anything for me. Mm-hmm. You're the guy I come to. So straight up, Martin, take a look at this book. This is done by Alex Ross. Alex Ross is one of the most established creators in comics. All right, look at his artwork. Do I need to sell him? I don't need to sell him. His artwork should sell itself. I should show this book on my show and sell it to you for only $10. And I bet you, unless you're looking for it, you're not going to buy it. And I've shown this book straight up. I'm selling this book for $10. It's got a cover price of $20 on it. I'm offering it at 50% off, and no one is buying it right now. Why? Because the person who wants this book hasn't come across it yet. And that's my point. It's Alex Ross. Even his work doesn't sell itself. He has to, it's up to me now to sell his stuff as the dealer, as the person who is with his work. And here's the thing about comics too, is they circulate. I bought a lot last week, and there's a lot of Big Dog Ink stuff in there. And it's all sold out pretty much already. Mike and Trish bought it all up for me. But they got other customers interested in it too. And here's the thing. I think that's because Tom knows how to work. He knows how to reach out to his audience. He knows how to build and engage. And that's what I need to do too. I mean, that's the future of our business. We were talking earlier about, this whole situation with COVID putting us in cement blocks. Well, once you're in cement blocks, you got to learn how to walk in them. Once you learn how to walk in them, you got to learn how to run in them.
That's so true. Yeah. I remember the story. I could be totally botching this story, so please feel free to call me out if I'm wrong on this one. But Neil Gaiman is at this big, I think, charity affair, and Neil Armstrong is there. And the two of them got to talking, and Neil Armstrong basically ends up saying, most of the people here, they don't even know who I am. What you guys do is absolutely amazing. And Neil Gaiman was like, are you kidding me? I'm not even the coolest Neil in the room. What are you talking about? And so, even the first motherfucker to walk on the moon has imposter syndrome. Absolutely. So, seriously, I think at the end of the day, we just need to decide, hey, I'm going to push and sell the number one, and I'm going to work my ass off on it. And then number two will tell me if I've got it or not. Because if people aren't coming back, then you know what you did. You know what I mean? You know that it didn't work out or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, all we can do is really focus on what we're happy with, what we loved about what we did, sell it, push it out there, and really hope that if people loved it, that they'll come back, or that at least they'll keep coming back, or we'll get more and more people. Because I know that despite Belial 2 did miles better than Belial 1. But there's still an awful lot of people who bought Belial 1 who never came back for 2. And yet, would I call that I could certainly agonize over those names that didn't come back. But at the end of the day, it's a victory. So you got to keep pushing, And you were talking earlier about COVID. And I know for a lot of people, it dragged them down. And I've had people say, you didn't look like you got dragged down. And I'll tell you guys, it was depressing. It was rough, but I didn't have the chance to. And the difference is that I got lucky. I'm a freelancer, and most of my work is editing. And when COVID hit, everyone's first reaction, or a lot of people's first reactions were, well, I might have a couple weeks off, so why don't I just make something? So suddenly I got really fucking busy because I'm editing, working on other people's shit. And so I just kept going and going and going. And everyone's, well, why aren't you down? Part of me is, but I really didn't have the time to be down because I was so fucking busy. And it's so much easier for somebody who was doing their own project and who basically is kind of their own project manager, and they are doing all that stuff, for them to get lost. But I didn't have that opportunity because I had people who were depending on me. I had to make sure that their stuff got done. And so it's just kind of it's a different thing. So am I strong? I don't know, maybe, but that's not really what happened. What really happened is that I just didn't have the opportunity to be down because shit had to get done. And I feel like I was lucky where that happened.
Yeah, I was, for me, it was the complete opposite. For Easton Shin, our production process moves at a snail's pace because we're very, very meticulous about every last detail. Because this is it's like what Tom is saying. You have to sell the product before the product can sell itself. Once folks are at home. So how do you sell the product? By putting everything you have into it. That's always been my approach to comics. I can't be the guy at DC who's writing 7 book titles a month. I'm not that guy. I have to put complete focus into the comics that I'm working on. So for me, it was the complete opposite because now my book was kind of paused and I didn't have a means of making money. So I didn't really have a way of starting anything new, but I realized I had to start something new anyway. And so I did. And I got to a certain point, and it needs a lot of, refining and a lot of work. And, there'd just be days upon days where I just wouldn't do anything. And then I just started reading comics because I figured if I read more comics, maybe that would help me understand, help me gain some more perspective, especially as I was interviewing these creators. And so I started reading more comics and then picking out those creators and saying, hey, I want to interview these guys. And because I'd get their books, it would allow me to get to know them a little bit better. And I started to see that there really is, you could do anything in comics. Mm-hmm. The buck really stops with you. You decide whether your comic has a reason to exist or not. And the thing is that just simply getting it done is the hard part. And even though certain things may not speak to me directly, like I may not be into this, I can recognize when something is genuinely good and when it's not. And, you can tell by the amount of effort that's put into it. Maybe it's not the perfect comic book. Maybe it's not the comic book that's for you, but there is somebody out there that is looking for that comic and will support it because they'll know the creator and the creator did this. And the only way they'll know that is if the creator can actually gets out there and does it. And I know creators who are physically incapable of not being able to do that. Kitsune Windsor is a primary example. Yeah. She's somebody who she doesn't have a voice. She can't talk, so it's very hard, but I've sold her book. I'll fucking sell that fucking book all fucking day. You know why? Because I believe in the creator. I believe that their book has an audience. I picked up Travis Gibbs' Voodoo Nations, which I thought was phenomenal. I Kickstarter, read the book, thought it was great. I have Broken Gargoyles from Bob Sally. That was like one of my favorite reads of 2020. And honestly, I really do feel like there has been a comeback in comics. Like there are a lot of really great projects in the works, Belial being one of them. And
thank you.
I can't wait to read it. And I want to sell your books on my show. And
they're coming your way.
Yeah, but you know what, Chuck? Before we were talking about, and we're going to just straight up talk business. I actually want to buy these copies from you right now. And once we're off the air, I don't want you sending them to me on consignment. I can afford to buy your books, and we're gonna sell them, and I'm gonna come back to you, and we're gonna reorder.
Oh, yeah. Not an issue at all. Of course, that's huge. Thank you so much.
I'm not saying this on the air, but
no.
Right away.
Why would I have a problem with that? No, I think that's huge. That's so amazing. Thank you so much. That's a nice little Christmas miracle. So, thank you.
From a Jewish guy of all
I
people.
know, right? Is it a Hanukkah miracle? Like, is this one of those candles? I'm not. So, you know what? Here's my problem. Getting on with you, we could chat about one thing, and everything that you say makes me want to talk about something else. You brought up your heritage a little bit. Is there any stories about your heritage that you're interested in trying to tell? You know, I got to be honest. I didn't realize that the story of the golem was a Jewish folklore.
It was Jewish folklore.
And I was like, oh, I think golems are so cool. Like, I always thought it was some kind of, some really neat, like, D&D style thing. And then you're like, no, not at all.
It was, I remember I had to read a book about it in college, and I didn't. It's really boring. I'm not interested in Jewish culture very much. And I shouldn't say, I should be ashamed to say that, but from what I understand, in terms of the folklore, is what is it? The golem, wasn't it like a protector or something? Or
I believe so. Yeah, I probably know just a little bit less than you do.
But to answer your question, did I ever dive into my heritage? I actually did a graphic novel about my grandfather's life, and during World War II, he was a Russian Jewish soldier that battled the Nazis.
Is that Marx that Michael keeps talking about?
Yeah, and I had a really great team of artists here. Hold on, I got the book right here. I can show it.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I'm in this place called an office where I actually have access to all my books, and this is a copy of Marx from our first printing, and it's
wow.
J.M. DeMatteis, who's the editor of the book and a longtime Spider-Man writer. He taught me a lot about.
Wait, J.M. DeMatteis was your.
He's one
editor?
of my. Yeah, he was an editor. Wow. He was my editor, and he taught me a lot about writing comics. And it took us forever. Like, J.M. is used to moving at such a fast pace.
Fuck you, Steph.
Steph,
delightfully fuck you.
Steph, you know what? I gotta have you on my show, dude. I gotta have you on my third-rate interview show. I've been meaning to reach out to you.
He's such a good dude, man.
This is not third rate. This is the Canadian Bacon Show. If you put Canadian Bacon in the hashtag, this is going to be a 1 million view show right there.
Right. Which is not ham.
Pussy on this show, and I turned it around, and turned it into. This can only get here.
I love how you turned pussy into bacon. Dude, that's amazing.
And Tom's straight up saying, if he's here, this is at least a second-rate show. Tom, totally agree. Call that.
And there's that ego that we all need to sell our shit, guys. That's exactly how we should all be talking.
That's awesome. And a special shout out again to Mike and Trish. Thank you guys for being here. You guys have been here this whole time. And Trish, I am seeing your comments. I'm sorry. I'll start rambling, and I apologize. But yeah, anyway, yeah. So J.M. DeMatteis, he was my writing.
That's awesome.
Guy, one of my writing guru guys, and who else did I collaborate with? Dan Doherty from Source. Yeah, he contributed. Ed Dukeshire lettered the book, and I had 3 different art styles for this book, and it was really cool because it was not intended. I wanted one artist originally, but it didn't work out that way. So I ended up with the first artist I hired, whose name was Nick Bell. He just started drawing the first chapter, and he was making it look more kind of like a fairy tale type of story. And I was like, well, the book starts out with my grandpa's youth, and youth is always such an innocent thing. And even in Russia before World War II, and I really wanted to give that emphasis there. And then Nick just couldn't keep up with the demand of the book, because that's the thing. Comics tend to happen much slower than we'd like to. It's great when they're coming out on a monthly basis, and every week people are scrambling. Like getting a monthly book out is extremely hard work.
Oh, yeah.
Publisher pushing new titles every week is very hard work. Being a dealer selling those books on a weekly basis is a lot of hard work. And it just doesn't happen overnight. So anyway, we had to hire new artists. And so I brought Vasilis Gogzilis from Greece on board. We're actually collaborating on a couple more projects next year. He actually approached me and said, hey, I really like your writing. I want to do a book with you. And I said, cool. And so I wrote it. And then he asked me to do another project with him. So we'll probably have, I hope we'll have like 2 projects out next year. And then I got Dan Doherty. Well, the one thing I wanted to say about Vasili's work is it has more of kind of like a Bill Sienkiewicz type feel to it. And that kind of captured more of the darker periods of my grandpa's life. And then to get the realism down of like what it was like being in the war, I really wanted Dan Doherty on board because Dan has a really strong sense of realism in his artwork. And these 3 collaborators, they kind of took they formed the shape of the book. And then what I ended up with was Nick did the first and last chapters, Vasily did the middle chapters, and then Dan Doherty did like the middle. And it like just came out to be like this perfect sandwich of a graphic novel. And we went back to press with it. I just invested so much money in 2019 into getting all these books and getting ready to sell them. And like, they're just waiting to be sold now. And they will once conventions come back. And even now, you guys can buy them on our live shows or go to our website at easunshin.com. And I can't post a comment here, but I can go on.
Mike, can you? No, I watch this. This is called the mic drop. Mike, could you drop easunshin.com in the
mic drop? That's
mic drop.
Mic drop. I love that. That's
awesome. The mic drop. Yeah,
awesome.
He does that for everybody. He's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
God bless you, Mike.
Yeah,
awesome.
He's so good. So here's, I love how excited you got by the fucking mic drop. Yes,
it's perfect.
That's Steph. That's Steph Wilson. I'm not gonna take that, but I use it all the time because it's brilliant.
Steph, I gotta get my kid to watch your drawing show one of these nights. I'm gonna get him. He's been wanting to check him out. So
yeah. So Tom actually came out with an amazing question. Writing gurus, mentors, do you both have those? Because I never did. Everything from me came from osmosis of reading comics since I was like 7. So I'm going to let you attack this one first because that is a big question.
Yeah, I did because for me, I always seek guidance because I feel like I'd rather learn from other people's mistakes than have to repeat the same mistakes. And is it a good thing? In a lot of ways, Tom, when I interviewed you and you came on my show, I envied the fact that you felt confident enough to just, push through with everything. For me, I really wanted to stand out. I mean, I felt like that's what happens when you get into comics, and it takes a long time for us to find those Tom Hutchinsons who are just doing their own thing and just said, I don't need to work at Marvel and DC. I'm just going to make comics. And I'm going to put them out there and they're going to sell because I know how to sell comics. And those people aren't around, especially in Chicago. I mean, they are, but you have to really find them. And especially when it comes to writing, I mean, like I come from an industrial background, like I don't know any comic book creators like in the vicinity of where I am, except for Alex Ross, who lives 15 minutes from my house. But you don't know that. You can't know that unless like, Alex Ross doesn't just like hang out anywhere. He's got like some big ass house like that's literally not very far from me. I don't know exactly where it is, but that's the thing. It's you just if you're not around it and you don't know you don't have those connections, you can't know that there are people out there doing these kinds of things. So for me, I always felt like I had to learn how to do these things, and I never learned how to write in college. I mean, like I took fiction writing, but they don't teach you comic book scripting. And did I really need that education? Probably not. What I really learned when I really started learning was after I graduated from college. And that doesn't apply to every profession. You can't just say, well, I'm going to be a doctor, but I'm not going to go to school for it. And I'm not going to learn about science or anything. I'm just going to like say I'm a doctor, and like, when you break your arm, I'm going to mix some raw eggs together and put it on there and everything's going to go away. The proteins will heal the bones, but that's the thing about it, is having a mentor for me was really important, because it was through them that I was able to. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for David Anthony Kraft, my co-writer on Yusung Shin, because Yusung Shin would not be what it is without him. I mean, this is the guy who basically built the world for She-Hulk. Worked on the Defenders, the Scorpio saga, and he came on board Yusung Shin, and he really helped me make it a good comic, so that it wouldn't be this, like, I didn't have any experience making comics, and here I am taking on this ambitious project that no one has heard of, and trying to make it matter and, have it be meaningful. And I needed somebody who had the understanding of how to tell a good story. And I couldn't just do that. And I couldn't do that with Marks either. I mean, I had a lot to learn about writing. There was like 6 months in between chapters where I'd write nothing for Marks. It took me 5 years to write it, because I had to know what to cut out. This was straight up writing about, there were so many other things going on in my life. I was getting married. I was having a kid. My sister got a divorce. My family got broken apart. My wife lives in Kazakhstan. All these other things are going on. Oh yeah, and I started a comic book company, and this and that is happening. So we really have to. One of the things you told me, Tom, is when it comes to writing and being creative, you have to actually set hours for yourself, and you have to say, this is when I'm coming in, and this is when I'm writing. And I think one thing I commend you for is that you just force it out. I can't. It's sometimes I just get there and I'm like, nope, not right. And I'll write something and it'll just, and I can't. That's my fault as a writer. That's where I fall short at because I have to put out the best I can for comics. I have to do my best work. I can't work on the fast deadlines that a lot of these writers can. And that's not saying anything about skill or talent. I actually think they're way more talented than I am, because they can turn out stuff so much faster. I need to sit there and mull it over for as long as it needs to be mulled over.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I pushed outlines so hard. It's because I'll tell people, you need an outline, because then you know where you're going and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure people are fucking tired of me bitching about how badly people need outlines. For me, I don't have a mentor. I have an editing mentor that I come to. And Steve Cole is an amazing dude, and I go to him, and he is always so helpful and all that kind of stuff, teaching me and taking me under his wing and explaining things to me and all that. So he's absolutely amazing. I never leave a conversation with him. I always leave a conversation with him better than I walked in. As a writer, though, I've just always loved story. And so I think the thing is that I've learned what I'm good at as a writer. I get how stories work and kind of the pieces that make up a good story. And so I kind of see them, and I understand dialogue and people. I love all that kind of stuff. So all that makes sense. It's when we get into the descriptive stuff, not only do I not love writing descriptions, I don't even fucking like reading descriptions. Like, I can get into a book and if there's chapter, like these big huge paragraphs where like, we're going to tell you about her dress, I'm like, I don't fucking care about the dress. Let's just move the fuck on.
That's what happens every time I write a script, Chuck. I'm like, nobody fucking cares, and I'm like, just delete yep. Everything. And that's what's hard, is when you're doing that on a month, when that's your job. I don't envy writers. I don't envy them at all. That is the hardest fucking job. And then being the artist who has to, and here's the thing too, I'm going to talk about writers for a minute. Everybody hates you too if you're a Marvel and DC guy. Like, if you're at the top, everybody fucking hates you. They're like, oh yeah, he puts out, half the stuff he puts out is shit. That's what they have to contend with every fucking month. Mm-hmm. And then they have to build themselves the same way you and I are doing it right now, is talking and communicating with our audiences. And it's hard for them to do that. And they all deal with imposter syndrome at some points. Like Brian Hitch, the great Brian Hitch.
Yep.
He was straight up on Twitter. He said, I have imposter syndrome. How the fuck can you have imposter syndrome? You're Brian fucking Hitch. Mm-hmm. Best artist in comics. it's, but it happens, and, it happens even more when you start to feel like you're not doing enough, and
Yeah.
I honestly felt this year I failed Yisung Shin. This is the worst sales year for my comic because I allowed myself to get absorbed by that. But at the same time, this was also a year of tremendous growth for me. So I know that I'm going to take everything that happened this year and apply it to next year. And I'm really hoping that I can take what Tom has really ushered in with what he's done is he's been able to scale back on conventions. And that's wonderful, because if you can do what you do at conventions from home, you save money and you save time. Yeah. You find ways to move it. And I think Yisung Shin's a little bit of a different type of book. I think what really works for me is being at shows. So I don't know if I can ever scale back to that extent, and unless I can come up with creative ways through Kickstarter, which is something I'm talking about. And Trish was mentioning before that, like, to do like a crossover between Belial and Yisung Shin.
I don't know if you could do. I don't know if they would.
Possible, and that's a problem with that's one of the things I have to contend with my book is how do you connect that, because these are personal projects. Well, that's why I got a new character that I've created called Warlion, and this is a superhero because I don't want to do just historical stuff anymore. I want to do a superhero story, and the worst part about it is I want it to matter, and I want people to care about it. So because how many superhero stories are out there? I mean, seriously, every other comic is a superhero story. Why should mine matter? Why does mine even? Why do I? Again, Tom said this. Maybe your book shouldn't exist. I ask myself that every time I'm working on Warline. Is delete. I don't want readers doing that. I want readers to be captivated, and it's a challenge. It is an honest challenge to go in there and put yourself out there like that. And again, talking about like mentorship and guidance and stuff, you're somebody I look to for that. So
yeah.
And you too, Chuck, by the way. I want to
say. No, thank you, dude. Thank you. No, I do appreciate that. But I mean, I feel the same way as you. I look up to him too.
Yeah.
Chuck gets $1 every time he says outline. That's true.
Well, I do agree with you. You do need an outline, and that's kind of the thing.
Huge.
The biggest challenge I have is like outline. Okay, well, this meets that, and it's, and maybe my understanding of outlines, and this is a question for you now, is maybe my understanding of outlines is wrong. Maybe I've been going about it the wrong way, but, to me, an outline is kind of like, this is the ABC of my story. And I have my characters, but I don't know who they are and what they represent, because I think in order for me to really tell a good superhero story, it has to come from deep within. And because this was born out of COVID, and I was in a dark place, I want to be in that dark place as I write this. But the problem is I'm not in a dark place anymore, because now I'm back and I'm working and I'm selling comics again, and I don't even have a moment to sit down and think about it. So how do you define an outline?
Well, okay. So before we get to the outline thing, you talked about not being in the dark place. So I learned something really cool when I was finishing up high school. I took this course. I love comedy. I worked as an improv comedian for a couple of years, and in my last year of high school, I took a comedy course through one of the teachers there, and he had literally gone to France and learned what they call bouffon, which is French clown. Now, the thing about French clown is it's not like American clown where you have the rubber nose and it's all this goofy bullshit. No, this is heightened emotion, and it's wearing all of your emotion on the exterior, and it's all about fucking for them, the closest to having sex on stage would be two clowns kissing. If you watch two French clowns kiss on stage, it would be like a porn anywhere else, just because the emotion is so heightened. Everything is so big and huge. And so he would take us through these exercises exercises in order to feel these different emotions and sort of be able to find them. And so there was this one thing he did called the color wheel. And each day for about an hour, he would literally take you through one color, and you would close your eyes and you would saturate yourself in just what it felt like to be just the whole world was just that color. And what we don't all realize is that on some level, we all allow different colors to make us feel different. They kind of incite in us different sensations and emotions. So then when that was all said and done, and we understood what all of those different colors did to us, I can now go and sit down and go, oh, cool, I need to go to a fun place, orange. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to focus on orange. And I'm going to go in and boom, now I'm ready to fucking do this. We're going to have fun. I need to write some sad. I'm going to sit in yellow. And yellow is a sad, pathetic trench coat. It's all of my sins. And I will sit there and boom, I'm there again. And so obviously I'm not telling you to go into the colors, but certainly what you can do is use some of the techniques like, playing certain music, maybe watching certain movies, and all that kind of stuff to temporarily take you to that place.
I do that. I do it every night. I do it every night. But you know what? You are right about the soundtrack thing, because lately I've been in this mood because it's mood, right? And here's the thing: being a dealer is all ups and downs. I swear to God, like it may look like I'm always killing it. I'm dealing with so much bullshit right now with just basic things like internet. And I finally solved the problem, but it has created so much more physical work for me until the problem actually gets, wow. See, a lot of people didn't expect that. Well, I can only do it on Chuck's show.
Yeah. We love to fucking swear here.
You like that?
I didn't hear what you said.
What's that?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said we're fuck buddies.
We are fuck buddies. Yes, we are.
Because we can drop that line. Good to see you, Joe.
Sorry, I'm trying to slip through. So holy shit, there's so many people talking. Holy crap, good for you guys. Wow.
Thank you all.
But yeah, the that stuff is so important. Kind of getting yourself into that mood. Like when I go out on the floor, I have the crazy fucking hyper metal playing in my head, and then I'm ready to fight, and I'm gonna go out there.
Exactly it. Now for me, I listen to like different shit. I listen to all kinds of stuff, and it's the lamest thing in the world, but I listen to the Spider-Man PS4 soundtrack because it's
really not lame. You do you, man.
It's a fucking great soundtrack, and not every track, but that's the thing. I'm very selective of tracks that I listen to, and music is a very important part of like setting the tone for me for some odd reason. But when I go to like, I also listen to rap music. Like I like battle rap music, but it's hard to get into that frame of mind of being in a dark place, especially after you have a good day. And if you have a bad day, you want to keep yourself positive and stay in there. So I'm sorry, Chuck. I appreciate everybody who's hanging out here right now. This is just so
no.
And,
dude,
and I
you're doing great.
I want to engage them, and I want to respond too. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm engaging them real quick with the hand signals and everything.
Fantastic. That's what you're doing. And you know what? People are here right now for you, Chuck, and you're building this. And
they're here for us, but thank you.
There we go.
They're here for us.
Yeah.
Hey, Muffin, how you doing, girl? Dude, that's the great thing about true friends. You can't tell the difference between a friend and an enemy. Like, those are real friends. When they can call you out on your shit and talk crap. Hey, at the end of the day, they're fucking here. You know what I mean? Like, if they really hated me, why don't you spend your time in a more productive way? Do better than me, right? Like, but you were talking about outlines earlier. There's another $1 for me. And the thing about it is that, so for me, first off, my characters, I very much want to flesh out my characters. to me, characters are the real reason why people give a shit. So I think the character.
I need to take notes, Chuck. I'm really sorry. I really do need to take notes.
No, go ahead.
Because you know what? You made me realize something. Because I was about to give you one of those bullshit replies, bro. I swear to God. I was going to say to you, well, I didn't get into the right frame of mind because, I was listening to the wrong music. And I was going to make it like, well, I tried listening to the right music. No, I didn't try. You just reminded me that I wasn't trying anymore. And that's an important thing for me. So I want to make note of that because I'm like,
go ahead. Yeah.
I'm going through.
Make sure you have more than just a Sharpie in a fucking folder there.
Exactly. Just like it was when I'm at Stan, like that's a, if I could relate myself to any superhero, it would be Peter Parker because I'm totally a dunce. I'm the guy who's not fashionably late, just always forgets the last minute. Please continue. I'm listening.
No, that's okay. So for outlines, first off, characters are the most important thing. So get your characters down first, especially like your mains. You need to kind of understand them, feel them, because at the end of the day, I know people get all excited about their twists and I have this really cool idea, but if the character doesn't matter, then none of these great ideas you have matter because they are our connection to those cool twists and stuff. So you have to have characters that are going to, first off, allow you to play within that story, but also that people are going to give a shit about.
And this is this is the problem that I have. I want you to continue, but I want to just add this. Everything's been done, right?
That's bullshit.
Oh, okay, all right. Go on.
I think it's bullshit. Sorry, it's both true and not true in my mind.
Yeah.
Yes, everything's done, but it also hasn't because there's so many combinations of things that you can do, and there's always ways to tweak and change them just enough that it's not the same thing anymore. Like you were talking about Yi Sun Shin, and you said that was a mixture of 300 and what was the other one?
Last Samurai.
You
know what the porn version? You know what the porn version of Yi Sun Shin is, guys? You will never forget it because one day it's going to be out there. It's going to have an all-Asian cast. American porn with an all-Asian cast, and it's going to be called Yi Poon Shin. Just tell you that on this show and this show only.
See, my head went to shit right away, and I was like, oh, no, I don't think we're ready for that on this show.
I have to maintain a PG-13, persona on my show because, we try and keep it very clean on CBSN. And we keep the politics off of there, which I'm all for that.
Yeah,
and
that's what
I'm all for that. And
right,
you're coming to me because you don't want to be talking about that. You're coming to me because you want me to tell you about Marx. You want me to tell you about how I still haven't sold Justice for 50% off the cover price.
Hey, by the way. He's selling Justice for $10, people. If any of you want it, buy it on this show because it would be fucking hilarious to make him look like an asshole on his own show and sell it on mine. So, guys, if anyone wants Justice right now, get it for $10.
Oh my God!
And you know what? I'll even do this. If you buy Justice for $10, I will send you a copy of Belial. Or Welcome to the Void, whichever one. I'm going to do it.
No, you will not do that. No, you will not. Here's what I'm going to do. I got something for you.
All
right, no, I got something. I'm going to throw it.
That was me just being such an asshole.
Hold on, I got it. Where is it? Damn it.
I love how I got him going. That's just awesome.
It's the 2018 comic book price guide. I will throw that in for free for you right now.
There you go, guys. Right now, if you get it,
price guide Overstreet.
You get the 2018 Overstreet, and he'll sign that for you, by the way. And he'll send you Justice.
If you want Belial, buy it. Buy
okay.
On my show or through Chuck.
I just thought, hey, I'm gonna do that just to be a dick and push it. That'd be great. But so outlines to go all the way back to that. outlines. So first you need your characters, and then of course from there it is the ABC, what things are important. And the thing is that when you have those great characters in these storylines, they start to create their own B plots and C slots, because you end up being so impassioned and excited about them. You want them to have their own stories, and so those layers start to kind of show up naturally when you care about those characters. So that's why I find I like to. I don't know if you've heard this, and I've said it a million times. I'm sure these guys are tired of hearing it, but I'm going to say it again. To me, outlines are like Spider-Man fighting in a field against Rhino. In an open field against Rhino, Spidey loses one of the most important things that he has, and that's mobility. And so when you create an outline, what you're doing is you're putting up pillars that he can now swing to. And this allows you some mobility in your storytelling. You know where you're going next, and you can get there however you choose, but at least you know where you're heading next, so you can have all of that kind of stuff set up. That's why, I remember reading Tom Brevoort was talking about, I think it was Civil War or one of those things. And so they pitched Civil War, and they said, what do you think? And he said, well, what comes after it? And they're like, what do you mean? We just pitched you this amazing thing. And he's like, no. That's great. It's a neat idea. But if that neat idea doesn't turn into anything else, doesn't create anything else, then what's the fucking point? And they're like, oh. So it's like, what does the world look like after that? And that's when we got stuff like, I think it was Secret Invasion and all that kind of stuff. And because all of that stuff sort of starts to lead into itself, because we have that aftermath. And so your A's and B's and C's, then each one of those things creates an effect of the story moving on and on. Even if you're doing a one shot, you almost always want to leave some little bit of meat on the bone, so that if someone gets excited and they go, oh, I have to read, I need you to do another version of that. I need you to do a second. I need you to revisit that. Then you have something. So like with Belial, I have 1 through 4 mapped out. It's all ready. We're working on 3 and 4. And Sean and I talked about it, and I said, I'm going to leave these things happening so that we could tell this story afterwards. And he's like, oh, so you're saying you already want to move on? I'm like, no. I want them to want us to move on. And so if they want that, it's there and it's ready. And if it doesn't happen, cool. I got lots of fucking stories to tell. It's not an issue. But at least having it there and having it ready, it means that if people do get excited, I already have plans and I can just jump in and go.
And that's really the right attitude. I mean, I had Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a couple
Such a cool dude.
He's a great guy. And, that was one of the things he was saying is once you have him in for number 1, you got those readers coming back for number 2. Now, I don't think that applies to us, Chuck, personally. I think that in a lot of ways, you were saying before, people would read your issue 1 and, not be back for issue 2. But then you would also have new people for issue 2 to supplement that.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think about it and I'm like, maybe he's right. I don't know, but maybe it does apply to everything. But I do know this. I remember seeing people at conventions and I'll be like, I got a great story. I was at a convention and I was down to my last 5 sets of Yi Sun Shin, very close to selling out. And what happened was this lady went by and I was pitching her. And then another, person was walking by and they were like, I've read your book before. And I'm like, really? What'd you think? I was like pitching someone. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I laughed so hard. I thought that was
right.
That was like the best response anybody could ever give me. All right. So, okay, fine. That happens, and, but that person ended up buying the book because they saw the artwork and they're like, I'm going to give this a shot, and I hope their experience is better.
Yeah.
They said there's something. I didn't see that comment. I'm sorry.
He's being a dick. These are more of that frenemy shit going on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I was writing before him, by the way, fuckers. I do have something to show you, but I'm slowly getting there. All the characters needs lots of pouches. Thank you, Rob Liefeld. We really appreciate that. Apparently he's in the house. Yep, you should know your friends like they're your best friends. Then you can figure out how they would react. Yeah, absolutely. And I say it all the time. Nothing is canon until you've written it. So be willing to make changes. If you made a background for your character and they're this, and then you realize, oh, it'd be so much cooler if they were that, then fucking change it. You haven't written it yet. Now, if you have, work with what you've got. Be adaptable, and that's something we need to consider anyways when we're writing. But yeah, it's not canon until it's published. That's how I look at it anyways.
That's true. That's 100, and at that point it now matters. It's.
See, and that's Tom and I very much feel the same way. It's been done, but not your way, and that's your vision, your way of looking at it.
And I agree with. And here's the thing, I'll agree with that. But until I figure that out, I'm not writing it. That way. Anything less than what I'm not writing it. Any other way than I have to get there in a way that makes it different. Because, let's just say, I'm modeling my book. I'm retelling a story. If you guys have ever seen True Lies, the Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
By James Cameron. Okay, so that was a really good movie. And it was actually based off of a French movie. And James Cameron is very meticulous in the projects he takes. So the fact that he took this on and turned it into this blockbuster action movie was really phenomenal. But you would never know that it was based off of a French movie. So if I decided to tell a Batman story or Batman, the character of Batman, and retell it my way, that's a challenge. I'm not saying it can't be done. You can put it out there. It's all good. You're right. Once it's canon, it's out there, and it is your way because it's got your imprint. And I've done that. I did that with my first comic ever. I put out a superhero comic. It was not how I wanted to make comics. It really got me to stand back and be like, all right, Tom's buying Justice, and he's getting the comic book price guide. Thank you, Tom. You rock, dude.
Sold on my show. Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Look, you need to get into live selling too, buddy.
I should, right? I need to pick up some books.
Start with that giant size X-Men right behind you, bro.
Oh, dude, that's my grail. That's my grail. I would need a lot of money for that. I would basically need enough money to buy a better version of it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's why I love Hulk 181. And we got out of that racket real fast because we were investing really heavy at first into these, into these books because you're a dealer, you want to have the top books. And when we started out, we just inherited a bunch of graphic novels, and so I was like, what am I going to do with this stuff? And so, yes, if anybody wants to send us money.
I'll put mine in there too.
I'm a poor Jewish man out. Oh, you're awesome.
Right?
Tom, do you even have the comic book price guide? It'll help you with pricing out comics in the future.
From the past. From 2 years ago.
But you know what? Actually, I did find out something really interesting about it. So one of the top guys over at CBSN, and guys, if you don't know, CBSN is the Comic Book Shopping Network, fastest growing comics social buying place out there. It's like Comic-Con around the clock. And, they're building up their, the people that shop on there are people who are committed buyers. And it's a really amazing thing and an amazing time to be in comics because when COVID first started, it was Chuck should have checked out Russ's show.
I should. Michaela and I met up while I was on every fucking show during Belial. And her and I have become very tight, and I didn't realize that she was on Russ's show. I couldn't have. The honest truth is that I've been doing massive edits. We need to get both Belial done and Oz versus Cthulhu Invades Oz out. And so I was doing a bunch of work today on those to get them both done and finished, so I can move on to other stuff. So I would have loved to have, but today was actually a really full day for me.
Yeah, that's a lot of work too, man. Be adaptable, but with pouches.
Yeah, and see, having all the space, the carrying space of pouches allows you to be more adaptable.
Books that way. You can just throw all your editing projects in there. And just...
Right. See, and that's why Batman's the man. He can have 50 billion fucking gadgets because of all of his fucking pouches.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the character I created, Warline, I finally settled on. I really wanted to stay in that into that dark place, like what we were talking about earlier, and when I say dark place, I mean like the dark things that go on in our lives, So it's one of those things where it's not so much. I going back to what you were saying, it hasn't been done your way. When you're sharing that side of yourself with the audience, you're sharing a perspective that's unique to you as an individual, and that way it hasn't been done before. So in that way, I would say that I took a lot from what you just said right there.
Yeah.
And the fact that I should invest in more pouches.
Right. Well, so that story you were talking about earlier, where you guys were talking about the adventure that Wendy and I had going to Minnesota. I've been wanting to tell that story, but the issue is that it's also about my kid coming out as trans, and I, as a cishet white dude, who is straight and all that other shit, all the privileges on top of each other. The only privilege I don't have is poor as fuck, but other than that, I have all the rest of them. I couldn't necessarily tell their story, so I was like, I want to tell that story, obviously from my point of view, but how do I make it interesting? How do I make it exciting? And so what I decided to do was all right, cool. I'm going to push into my fantasy roots, because that's the shit I love the most. And that's the kinds of stories that I don't get to tell as often. And so instead of a pair of, a mother and father having to travel across the world or across the continental United States to get their kid who had run away because they were being made fun of because they were trans, this is about a pair of fairies, fae, who end up having to travel across this post-apocalyptic fantasy wasteland to track down their child who was taken away. And they're both of them are, oh my gosh, pacifists. And so they have to, go out and sort of ditch their pacifistic natures in order to do everything they can to get their kid back. And so I just basically viewed a fantasy story, or viewed my story through this kind of fantasy lens, and gave it its own spin. So I'm even taking from my own life and kind of screwing around and adding new things to it. So there's always ways. And you know what? I'm sure at some point you can look at it and you can go, well, it's a lot like The Road, or it's a lot like The Last of Us, or whatever you decide to go with. And yeah, but it's my thing. Like, I actually fucking went through this. So there's still this level of personal of myself in it. So yeah, man, there's always, even though it's all been done, like he said, it hasn't been done the way you're going to do it.
And it's kind of like this. Every time someone tells a story, be like, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that thing. Like even with Yisun Chen, how do I sell it? It's Last Samurai meets 300.
Yeah.
Okay, you've heard of both those. It's nothing like that, but it is like that. Dude, Kevin Rodatelli, what's up, man? You guys should check out the interview I did with him. This guy's awesome.
He is something else, yeah.
And big things are happening for him with Behemoth right now.
Yeah.
Simon & Schuster distributing their books.
That's
We
huge.
we sold one of their books recently. Necro, I think. Was it Necro?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just really solid stuff. Thanks for tuning in, dude. Yeah. Yeah. There's always a piece of the creator in the story, and you know, I think that was kind of the point I was alluding to. I'm sorry, I got distracted there.
No, dude.
Because I was really taken by what you said. But see, you tell your story, and here's where it speaks to me as somebody, as a father. Because like I got 2 kids right now, and you know, I always feel like I'm not doing enough for them. You know, because especially right now with like running around, I like barely see my kids right now, and I try and make up for it in the mornings when I'm at home, and you know, this is a really precious time, and I see my 3-year-old. He's like having he really like misses me and really wishes I was around more right now. So you know, fortunately, I've kind of like figured everything out, so hopefully I'll be able to start spending some more time at home. But the thing that's challenging about it is like, you know, you tell a story. And it's someone can always connect to that, and I don't know what's going to happen to my kid one day. He might come up to me and say, "Dad, I'm a woman, and I'm not going to love him any less because he's my child. He's my flesh and blood. She is now my flesh and blood, and I have a problem with that. I fuck it up all the time. Kitsune Windsor was once Jason. For the last 8 years, I've known her as Jason. I constantly refer to her as Jason. I mess up all the time and say he when it's really she. And, you know, I can't imagine what that's like for you. And so you've already sold me on the fact that you actually went through this. And I just think, dude, I have so much admiration for you as a father. I can't imagine what that was like. And, you know, the fact that your child ran away had to be a really hard thing because I already feel like this, like that I'm not giving enough, you know, but like here you are actually in a situation where your child felt like they couldn't get what you were trying to give them. And, or maybe not, you know, you don't know, but it's really amazing that you went that far and that it allowed you to be creative and tell a story like that. To me is very inspiring and has really made me realize that that's what I need to do in order to really forge on with what I want to do with Warline. And, you know, mad props to you, brother.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
A fantastic editor, by the way. I can tell just from this conversation.
Well, thank you. That all that means a lot to me. And I think really kind of the point of, I think all of this is getting to, for me anyways, is at the end of the day, you gotta do you. So like, you know, when you say, oh, well, you know, this adventure you went on and the way you were able to do it, I'm like, cool, thank you. Like, I really appreciate that. But at the end of the day, that was me just don't kiss Chuck's ass. Yes, thanks, Steph. I have a lot of ass. There's a lot of ass to kiss. But at the end of the day,
that's what fuck buddies do.
Right? That is exactly what fuck buddies do.
Fuck!
You just gotta do you. And you just gotta tell your story your way. And you gotta, you know, at the end of the day, feel good with the moves that you make and the things that you do, and be happy with how you're doing it. And so that's just what I do. And, you know, it's worked out pretty well, but it's, you know, I have a good moral compass and I have people around me who, you know, keep me straight, have no problem telling me when I'm fucking up. And I turn to them a lot and I'll say, hey, what about this? Oh, that's a shitty idea. I would not do that. Okay. Why? You know, and always ask why. Don't just take the word for it. Always ask the why. But yeah, man, you just got to do you.
And that's an important. That's exactly what David Anthony Kraft does for me. Yeah. You know, like he always puts me in check. I'm sorry, I want to read the comment. Isn't it funny?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Isn't it funny in the past, if you were an artist and you wore your own merch, you were frowned upon, and now you can wear your own merch and everybody praises you for it? How progressive we've gotten.
Well, you know what? I wear my own merch all the time because I can't afford anything else, yo. My wardrobe.
We spent so much buying those fucking shirts that you got.
I bought all this inventory that I didn't sell through this year, so now I just gotta wear it to get my money's worth.
But you know what? The other side of that is you're always selling. You know what I mean? Like that's
you are. I don't fucking. I wear this with fucking pride, man.
Right? Like what? Why are you selling fucking Nike's shit by wearing a just do it shirt?
I'm never.
They don't need your help.
Hell no. Here, you want to hear something funny? I was in New York one year for Thanksgiving with my wife and my kids. We're walking down Main Street, and the dude who's like the president of the founder of T-Mobile.
Okay.
I forgot his name, but straight up is walking down on the street, and he's a very like public persona. If I showed you guys know who I'm talking about, the founder.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
Straight up wearing his fucking T-Mobile jumpsuit and walking outside because he's selling his brand. He's telling you what's up. He's representing. That's what you do. Yeah, that's true. I couldn't sell it. Don't go on my dealing show and find this.
Come on to my show.
It's gone. But I do have Justice number 1. I have Justice number 1, the actual single issue for sale. And you guys can totally check me out tomorrow. I'm on CBSN at 1 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Central, and 4 p.m. Eastern for 2 hours. And then I'm doing a night show too at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. You guys can actually buy comics from me. I have lots and lots of comics now, and we got a variety of everything. I just got every freaking comic in there.
Well, and
always looking to buy more too, so that's also fun.
And that also goes into your adaptability. You know what I mean?
Like, I didn't have a choice now. It was just like no cons anymore. Like, what was I gonna do? I woke up one morning. I swear to God, this is what happened, Chuck. When you funded Belial too, and I knew I was gonna go to Kickstarter. I plan on doing a ton of Kickstarters next year. The problem is, if I did a Kickstarter for Easton Shin right now, where our production's moving at a very slow pace because my artist was working on finishing up another book, I would have done a Kickstarter this year. I would have had nothing to show you guys, nothing new.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. So for me now, it's creating something new that I can get out there and still be proud of, but can do like crossovers with, and Warline is that character in a lot of ways, but in some ways it may not be. I don't know. But it's one of those things where I have to constantly think about it, and hearing your personal story of what you went through kind of makes me realize that, yeah, even if there are other stories out there that are like yours, it's not yours. And I actually interviewed Jim Kruger, the guy who wrote Justice.
Yep.
Fascinating guy. Really.
Oh, no doubt.
He's the easiest guy to talk to. Just straight up the easiest guy to talk to.
See, and that's the next level of the show I want to get to, where eventually I can start talking to these much bigger people. And certainly not an attack on you or anybody else.
Whatever you want, Chuck. I will put you in touch with anybody I've interviewed, and I will tell them, and if they're watching this show right now, here's my testimony. You want to be on this show. Just hit me up. I'll give you a list of people who I think.
Oh, we'll be talking.
Absolutely. And they'll gladly come on and talk with you because you're good people, man.
Oh, cool. Well, no, geez, thank you so much. Look at Jack. Jack called us out.
Oh, damn it. It's in the other room. I can go get it real quick.
Mine is actually.
It's really hot. My head gets really hot. I was fucking wearing it during the show, and I'm like, hey, guys, you're watching Kicking It with Onrie. Let me show you some. Oh, my God, my head is burning. Ah!
Mine is in the wash because I wanted it for Christmas.
No, it's because I'm Jewish. Jewish people aren't allowed to grow.
If you had put a little candle on there, he would have been fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or a Star of David, like something.
Maybe I have to wear my kippah on top or something.
There you go.
And I can put the hat on.
Okay, sorry. Jack said that he put up a question that I didn't throw up. What's the question, Jack? I can throw it up right now. Oh, I vaguely remember it. Jack, but Jack, put the question back up. I know he called us out, funnily enough, on something. Put it up there, Jack. We'll talk about it. I'm gonna probably wind down the show pretty soon, but please call us out. Go ahead.
Yeah, we need to be called out.
I know, right? What did I miss? You missed about 2 hours of chit chat and fun and talking about selling and stories and making books and selling books and everything
And fuck buddying.
and fuck buddying that too.
Chuck's never having me on his show again. This is it.
Oh no! Now I'm going to have you on again because this was. You don't just look. I mean, you don't just do 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like we have shit to do.
I don't do 2 hours. My cutoff's an hour. I just love
Well, my thing is, I'll do an hour, and if it goes longer, then it goes until we have both realized, okay, we gotta reel this fucking thing. So I don't usually want to go much longer than 2. And that's just because that's a lot of time to ask of you, of anyone else.
what my episodes are. It's hard.
Yeah.
You gotta like keep pushing through and to the very end, no matter what happens. And it's hard. But it's a lot of fun, and I love doing it. And this is great.
I'm trying to rush through and try to find what Jack said. But I mean, yeah. Did you have any other questions, or did you have anything else you wanted to talk about while I slip through and try to find these thing? This thing.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you. So you're now working with Scout. You're editing a book that got picked up by Scout.
I'm editing a book that got
Okay, so what's that experience been like for you? Like, is it pretty much the same thing as freelance editing anywhere else, or has it been a little bit different?
Well, okay, so that's the funny thing. It's like it's the same, but it's not. I'm gonna stop. It'll come up when it comes up. It's the same, but it's not in that a lot of these places don't want they want their own editors on the book. Because they can control them and they can make it go their way. And so a lot of the times my clients kind of have to go to the mat for me, and I tell them not to, because for me as an editor, as a comic creator, all that stuff, it's all about the book. So if Scout or whomever says we want the book but Chuck can't be credited, then I'll be like, cool, I got paid, and at the end of the day, you can talk about me, mention me, do whatever you have to do. But at the end of the day, that book has to get on shelves, and I can't be the reason why it doesn't end up there. Scout was cool enough. I think that they wanted, of course, they wanted their own guys there. But I'm a co-creator of the book, Cat Dad and Supermom, so that's helped an awful lot.
I've had some demand for that book, by the way, too.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I'll talk to Rob because I think he still has some.
Talk to Rob. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm still like a virgin when it comes to like I'm popping my cherry. When it comes,
I love that you have to pop your own cherry.
Well, it's kind of life, It's like you gotta break your own hymen, Kevin.
Okay, we got this. So, question for Chuck, Onrie, Tom, and Steph: will Mike and Trish have a full thank you page in your next book? They should.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? They're getting a double page splash. Those fold out covers. You see the entire Batcave, the entire thing. You see the whole thing.
Who wants to be my editor? Dude, just ask around. I mean, here's the. You know what? Here's the thing. I'll tell people all the time, I love what I do, but I'm not for everybody. And so you got to find someone that you gel with, that gets you, works the way you want them to work, because at the end of the day, it's your book. So you need to kind of, ask around. Maybe even explain what you're looking for in an editor, and see if people have some good pointers, because some people might say, oh, well, what you're looking for, those aren't necessarily Chuck's strong points, but this dude or this lady or whomever, they're totally what you're looking for. And I don't have an issue at all. I remember some guy coming to me early on and him saying, he said, he started asking me questions about editing and how I was getting so many customers and whatnot. And I started to answer, and then he said, "I want you to understand, I am your competition." And I laughed and I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Well, what's so funny?" And I'm like, "Well, you're not mine." And he went, "What the fuck does that mean?" I'm like, "No, no, no. I don't have competition. There is no competition personally for me. I don't see any kind of competition. I go out there, I do what I do, and people come back or they don't. And if they don't, then I move on to the next one and the next one, and I keep going. So I'm not here to fucking compete against you. I'm here to make really good fucking books and be a part of really good fucking books and push the books that I'm a part of. And if it works for those people, great. If it doesn't, no problem. There's other people who probably appreciate what I do. So I don't have any competition. I'm not looking at any of the other editors going, oh, what's up with that motherfucker? I want his client base. I mean, maybe I do, but if they really don't like what that guy's doing, I'm here. Don't worry.
And guys, just so you know, I'm an editor too. I've taken on multiple editing projects.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
So
I don't see
this guy.
You know what I was thinking the whole time that Chuck was saying this? This guy was saying it. Here, I want to pick your nose. Yeah. No, what I was saying. Yeah, there you go. There you go. But the thing I was thinking is like, man, what I was thinking when I heard all that is I want Chuck to be my editor on some project someday. Like if it works out, kind of a thing. But even though I'm an editor myself, because what do editors do? I think editors. I'm not a full-time editor like you, Chuck, so I don't think I have the amount of turnover that you do. So I can't really, because I don't do it full time. The projects that I do editing on are just relationships I've built with certain creators, and they've asked me to edit their stuff for them. But it's a very hard job. You have to be honest with the creators, like you're saying. They have to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
They have to actually believe that the things you're telling them. But I also think that there's an aspect to editing that is knowing what the client wants from you. Like I got one guy who said, "Onrie, I just need you to look up spelling errors." Well, I'm not going to, if you just want me to check out spelling errors, I'm not going to criticize your story. And every time he asked me what I thought about his story, I said, "It's great." Because he paid me to spell check his stuff, not tear apart his story.
Yep.
If he paid me to tear apart his story, we'd have a different conversation. Why? Because the guy's confident in his story. Why am I going to make him feel like shit? If he hired me to do one thing, I'm going to do that one thing because that's what he hired me to do. He didn't hire me to go in and be the editor and tear apart his story.
Yeah. Also, I will say I don't like when they do that. When they say, like I've had several people that are like, I'm going to hire you as a proofer. Okay, well, I cost this as a proofer, which is proofing is very cheap.
It's a different job than editing.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, that's only one aspect of editing, and you're right, it is.
Yeah.
Because I self-edit on Yisum Shin, and it's a lot of goddamn work. It's so much work.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just painfully slow with the work with my turnover, because you have to be meticulous. And I keep writing until I stop hitting that delete button. And once I keep hitting that delete button, then I know I got something. If by the end of a writing session I have to throw it out, then I know it's shit and it doesn't belong there. That's just the standard I hold myself to. Other writers who have to pay bills and get things out there, and their job is to, make you interested in buying Batman next month, they have a completely different job. Their job is so much more focused on that idea, whereas being having my own creator-owned comics, I can do the kind of comics that I want to do and put that out. I think that's the most important thing. And I've stopped kind of like chasing that goalpost of like, oh, I want to be at Marvel or I want to be at DC. I don't need to be at Marvel and DC to be a comics creator. I'm a comics creator,
Yeah. Well, so have I talked to you about the badges?
No.
Okay, so what I've found in in 2019, I kind of found this thing that I like to call the badges. And so basically, I imagine myself as, I think a lot of us were as kids. You're a scout and you just want to fill that sash with as many badges as possible. Because when you walk into a room, the kid with all the fucking badges, right away you're like, holy shit, that kid right there.
He's like an admiral in the military. He's
right?
All the medals up. Yeah.
The difference between the admiral, though, and that kid with the badges is that kid could have, whittled some really, really shitty fucking duck out of soap, and he got like a little badge, and it took him like half an hour. So it doesn't matter. And so those badges are not that difficult to get. It's kind of the same in comics, where for me, the badges are things like having a book in Scout. That's a badge. Now I can talk about that. Having a book in Marcosia, in Antarctic Press, being able to say that you can find a book that I worked on in, not Simon & Schuster, one of those major bookstores.
Books A Million?
No.
Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble. So one of the books I worked on is in Barnes & Noble. Those are all badges. And so would I like to work at Marvel and DC? Absolutely, for the badge. That's it, man.
You know what? And I would say if it was the right project, and here's the problem. I've come up with ideas to pitch to Marvel. Here's a great one. Old Man Miles. It's going to do Old Man Miles Morales.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. No. There's already Miles Morales at the end. They did an end story. And I was like, that's it. And I guess my story doesn't have a place in this world right now unless one day Marvel comes to me and says, hey, Onrie, we really like Decent Shin, or we really like Marks, and we'd like you to do a story. The likelihood of that happening is not very high, because how does Marvel choose who they want to write their stuff? They want someone who has a track record of, selling X amount of books in the market on a monthly basis. Well, Eastern Shin comes out every Shrove Tuesday, but I can tell you right now that I've sold over 100,000 copies of these books. And
badge, massive badge.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It's a foot-long badge.
Yeah, no, that dude, 100,000, that's huge. That's a massive badge. So author Michaela Jade said this: my youngest daughter likes to do copy edits. She posted that on Facebook, and some authors flipped the fuck out. All she was saying was she would do copy edits. That's not developmental edits or story bylines. I was shocked at the backlash. Where did the backlash come from? I don't get that. What are they?
I'm offended that you're offended.
Wait, what are they freaking out about? What is there? Is your daughter exceptionally young, or like what is it that they would be freaked out about? And really, like, you have to start somewhere. I mean, I remember the first time I edited something, there was part of me who was like, I don't deserve to do this because I've never done it before. But how the fuck would you do it then? Like,
look, if you're a writer and you can't take that criticism, you're never going to grow. You got to be told that you suck sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to be told that you suck, because that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And I can tell you right now that the amount of ideas that I thought were brilliant that got rejected for logical reasons were taught to me through David Anthony Kraft. And I write by hitting that delete button. That's just how it comes out. But what happened with your daughter is just ridiculous. I mean, come on, if you're a writer and you're serious about this, you want for your own benefit to have a good editor to help you get through your project.
So this is what the backlash came from: authors saying that she couldn't do edits because she's young and didn't have a PhD. Okay, so fuck them so fucking hard. Fuck them so hard up their assholes. If you want to do copy edits, all you need is Shrunken White's book. That's all you really need. That and fucking Grammarly, and you're okay. You know what I mean? Like, for proofing and stuff, they're so full of
I
shit.
wish I had my PhD. Then I'd probably get paid more.
Well, and you know,
the doctor of editing, like, dude, that's like
that backlash comes from the fact that these assholes put that much money into college.
If you're a doctor and you edit, I understand that, but do you really need to be a doctor in order to edit stuff? I mean, you really just, it comes down to paying attention, knowing the basic rules of grammar and storytelling.
It's a level of elitism that is just fucking sickening and disgusting. So they can go fuck themselves with the hardest spiked pole. I don't give a shit. And I'll be the first one to tell you, people talk about me as an editor all the time. They can say whatever they want. You know, like generally very good things are said. I only finished high school, never went to college.
And you want to know what? The same is true for a lot of Marvel editors too.
Yeah.
They didn't. Ed Brubaker, one of the top writers in the industry now, had celebrated runs on multiple comics from Marvel and DC.
Plus Image.
Yeah. Just anything Brubaker touches. I think the guy was a high school dropout.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're passionate about something and you give a shit about it enough, you'll fucking pick it up and you'll learn.
Yep.
And so that's all that matters. So fuck these guys. Fuck their degrees. I'll take work from those motherfuckers in a heartbeat. I don't give a shit.
Doctors know anyway.
A doctor of editing?
Except for the real doctor, it'll be like, I know that.
I know that lump on your chest isn't good. Oh, yeah. We need to talk. Yeah, they can fuck themselves, Michaela. Seriously.
F those a-holes.
Yes. If we were on any other show, that's exactly what you would say. Chuck has a thesaurus. I have thesaurus.com and dictionary.com, which are huge.
One time for an editing project, I actually had to go. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. It's getting late.
Okay. What else we have? My wife had a chance to get paid $100,000 a year, and we could be doing $250,000 zero college. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chuck, is the education system in Canada better than America's? It's definitely different. I mean, to each their own. I find because we're in Canada, we focus on a lot more other countries more because Canada kind of has this low self-esteem. So you certainly do get Canadian history, but there's a lot more world history, which is so huge. I do find that America tends to kiss its own ass an awful lot. And so in my kids, I've noticed a very different change in them moving from Canada to the United States. It's not necessarily better, but there's certainly a lot of things that I do appreciate about it. And there's certainly places where they've failed me too. So, and they ripped. That sucks. Well, okay. So anybody out there, if you're looking for an affordable copy editor, contact author Michaela Jade. Her daughter does copy editing for you. She can give you a really good price. Check her out. I assume she's also good at good proofer. So if you want a nice comic proofer for your comics, we have a lot of comic creators here, contact author Michaela Jade. Her daughter could very easily go through and proof your comic and help you out. And you would be helping someone get a leg up in the world. Before you come to me, before you come to anyone else, why not go to this girl, give her a shot? She deserves it, and I think she'll do a wonderful job. And yeah, so give these guys a shot, man. This is such bullshit. Coming in real quick, seeing what else is going on. You're Canadian. Yeah, you have every right to leave. I get it. I do understand. Hey, Wendy. So good to have you here.
Oh, hey, Wendy.
Great. Do you know Wendy?
I do, kind of. We messaged a little bit, but that was it.
Great lady. You guys are fucking awesome. Yes, you can. Then there you go. She's going to be a proofer. PM me. I'm about to finish my first comic. Great. Author Michaela Jade. This is I Am Sam right here. PM him, hook him up with your daughter, get her first
That's awesome.
proofing job.
Selling comics and selling services.
Mm-hmm. Yep, make that happen and get her credit. And yeah, man, that's what it's all about. That's exactly what this. Chuck, do you miss Tooties? What are Tooties? I miss Tim Hortons. I miss a lot of things.
Canadian candy.
Anyways, so we probably should be 2 hours and 15 minutes has just flown by.
It has flown by.
Right.
I'm not kidding. I love being here, man.
I know. I'm forcing it to end. Like at this point, I'm just like,
go. All right, go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Fuck up.
Michaela, we love you very much. No problem. That's what this shit's all about. And it's what we've been talking about, supporting the community, trying to make sure that everyone's better than they were. I think you might be talking about Tootsie's Magic of the Community. That's it, man. So tonight we got a young, brand new editor a job, and we sold that copy of Justice, which was so hard to sell. He couldn't sell it for weeks, but we got it out there. That's huge.
This is how
the community.
This is how it all happens. This is going to Tom Hutchinson.
Victory. What is that word that you say? I love it.
Onward to victory.
No, but there's a Korean word that you yell.
Oh yeah, I said it in Korean. Yeah, I did a speech in Korean. It's Singrerir Wiaya.
Oh, I thought there was like one word that you yell, like.
Oh, Bang Pahara?
No, that's not it either. Maybe I've made it up.
No, just trying to do it.
Oh, loonies. Yes, I miss loonies. Loonies and toonies are what they're called.
Oh yes, the coins you guys got. Yes.
Yeah, those are funny because when my stepsons came to Canada, they got a bunch of loonies and toonies, and they didn't realize their worth, and so we're walking down the streets, and we're in downtown Toronto, and he had a bunch of change in his pocket, and he saw a beggar, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and he gave him all of his change, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he goes, "I just gave him my change." I was like, "That was like $17." He's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's a lot of money." He's like, "Oh, should I ask for it back?" No, you lost that shit. You just gotta, you learned an expensive lesson, dude. Like, holy fuck. So yeah, cool. Onrie, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We had a really good job. Can you tell everybody where to find you and how to find all your amazing stuff?
Find me on Facebook, guys. Just friend me on Facebook, Onrie Kompan. That's the best way for us to stay in touch. I'm also on CBSN, if you guys are members of CBSN. And I do shows on there, and I do shows on my own. And you guys can check out my website. Mike did a mic drop, and my website's in there. It's yisunshin.com. You can buy Yisun Shin books. I'll sign them and ship them right to your front door. I'm going to knock off 20% on the cover price of our hardcover book. So $25 book going for $20, and Mark's is only going for $15. And I will sign it and send it to your front door for you. And you can also buy comics with me. So shop. Let me know what you're looking for. No matter what it is, I'm going to stock it for you and get it in your hands for a good price.
That's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show, guys. My name is Chuck. I give a fuck. Peace, love, and comics. Take care. We will see you next week. I don't remember who's on, but it's going to be a good show because we haven't had a bad one yet. Or maybe that'll be the one I fuck up. Take care, guys. Peace out.
Dude, that was nuts.